session, but this is the May 19th Board of Ed meeting. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to deviate a little bit from our agenda and go straight into tenure. You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so this is always a fun night, even when we're only celebrating two people. But we're celebrating two very special people tonight. We'll start with Mr. Confrey. Tom Confrey came to us from Arlington a couple of years ago. Their downsizing was our win, and we're so glad to have you with us. If you look around and see the science department here with you, that's pretty special. So, congratulations. Tom makes impossible subjects, impossible topics understandable. This English major says. So, welcome and thank you and congratulations, and I hope it's a long, long tenure here in the Penn Hud schools. Thank you. And we have a familiar tenure in Terry Outhouse, Teresa Outhouse. How many years ago did we tenure you?
10, 11?
Oh, so when your daughter was here, wearing my watch, that was not for tenure.
No, that was
For Barbara LaFemina's tenure. Excellent, excellent. So Terry has been with us for quite a while. First as a reading teacher for many years, and then she threw her hat into the special ed ring. She's certified in special ed, reading, and classroom, general classroom, so, and also in administration. We'll be hearing more from Terry going forward. So when Terry was leading a project in her school with reading, I watched her one day and I thought, well, Terry needs to be an administrator. So we sent her to the Future School Leaders Program, and she excelled. And here she is, with her adorable daughter, Kimberly, who I talked into eating a pink cupcake. Anyway, Terry, fabulous, and thank you. Second tenure here in our district. Congratulations. So most years we have, 14 or 16 people, and we talk, and we deliver great tenure to great people. And here we have two people this year. We actually have a third. The third is Katie Ostry, but she's a psychologist at Frenchy Lindsay. She is coaching lacrosse, and they're at sectionals. So her priorities are straight.
I was going to say, good for her.
Absolutely. So congratulations to Katie as well, and I do have a flower for her. I will bring it to her tomorrow. Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, welcome. Thank you. We've enjoyed the first 3 years with you, and we're more. And look forward to quite a few more. Thank you. I don't know if you'd like to say anything, but if you'd like to, feel free to say it. But otherwise, do not feel. They're probably sitting there going, God, no. But thank you very much. Does anybody else? Okay.
Congratulations and thank you for bringing your skills and passion here. We appreciate it.
They were just staring at you. Figured you've had them all. So.
Well, no, I haven't. But I've had Mr. Comfrey this year. He's one of the most incredible teachers I've ever had. If I could have him for every subject, I would. I've learned so much.
There you go.
Teaches an incredibly hard subject, incredibly well. So, and everyone else. For having me front line.
And as a result, look at that beautiful special.
There you go.
There you go.
I don't think we've seen you in anything that doesn't have the big C since,
Well,
you're
it's on that contract.
Exactly. That's a
not
big
anything else.
forever.
Be outcasted by
Not
someone.
there yet, it should be an H.
There you go. It is.
I thought it was a future farmer's guy.
Well, thank you very much.
Well played.
Proud.
Well played.
So we're good then. We will be. If I can get we'll just get our agenda in order. If I can get Are there any items, a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Are there any items anybody would like pulled? Then we're good, then we pretend you're. Okay, can we vote, please? Go ahead.
Now you're tenured.
Everybody said okay, so.
No, actually, the first day of school next year, so we have some.
There you go. Well, thank you very much. The next items, it's back to regular business. So now would be the time to run if you chose to. And vote if you haven't yet.
Yes, please.
So the items there were no items removed, so our next topic would be I believe it's the donations. Can I get, this is donation $240 for transportation personnel appreciation, and it was contributed by our elementary and our SEPTA PTAs. Can I get a motion to approve? All those in favor? I would like to take this opportunity for transportation personnel appreciation, to thank them for the work they do. It's not an easy job. We understand that. You see the kids at their best and their worst. So we appreciate your patience with them. So thank you very much to our transportation personnel. Okay, that would bring us to, I believe that's audience comments. None? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so that's our superintendent.
I have a couple things I'd like to comment on. One is, as the board is aware, last December we passed a $6.2 million capital project, and 2 weeks ago the board approved moving forward with a solar panel project. Between the two projects, we may need to have some construction and some repairs being done to Frank G. Elementary School this summer. That will require that if we do need to go forward with that based on the schedule and the scope of the work, we may need to relocate our two summer school programs, both our elementary program and our extended school year program for students with special needs. We've done it in the past. We've had the program housed at Buchanan for Plank. We've had it housed at the high school. We hope that we don't need to move the program because it's a very central location, obviously, and it's reliable for students and families who have been in the program for a while. We are anticipating to open bids in early June on the project, and once we open bids, we'll have a better idea of the scope of the work, the timeline, and the access that the folks will need to the school in order to make the repairs. So the school will be ready by September 1st. So it's a possibility, but we're planning some for backup, but we will certainly keep you in the loop. Another item on the agenda, what you approved earlier today, was the government efficiency plan with Croton. In front of you, you should have a packet, which is a printout from the website that Enrique and his colleague from Croton Harmon submitted. And I don't know, Enrique, if you want to comment on this briefly, but this is part of the governor's plan to find efficiencies and tax credits and really to make sure that municipalities are working together so services aren't duplicated. The format is a little goofy, but we printed this out right from the website. You could not save it, reformat it, so all the information's here, but I'll let Enrique talk about some of the highlights.
Sure, thank you. The whole purpose is to be more efficient, share services, and the idea is that we need to save 1% of our levy, or $410,000, through efficiencies that we've done and will continue for the next 3 years. Obviously for us was a simple fact because we've been cutting and we've been getting more efficient. So if you look at the last page, Proton needed 300,000 in efficiency. We needed 400,000. So the total was 700 that we needed to cut or be more efficient or share. And if you can see, we're in the $2 and $3 million. So we were way above what were asked from us. This is something that there were not many rules, so we put everything that we could because we don't even know how they are going to check. But at the end of the day, as you can see, we work very well with Proton. We have many efficiencies, and I feel pretty comfortable that all these efficiencies will be approved by the controller's office. Thank you.
We received some very exciting news last night. I'm going to put our student board member Jazz on the spot because he and I were tweeting back and forth last night sharing good news.
What did you win now?
Well, yes,
The torch has been passed.
the torch has been passed down to his sister. So the Westchester County Metro Awards highlight students, school-age students, all the way down to elementary students and high school who participate in drama and stage performances, both in school and in community groups. And Ms. Melody Munitz has been nominated and has been invited to the awards ceremony in early June. And I had the opportunity, Jim and I received the email late last night from Claire, and I cut and pasted it and put it on Twitter, and within minutes Jazz was replying to me and saying he was in the car with Melody, and that was the first she was notified.
Yeah,
It's
she was performing in another show. She was,
yeah. So in the absence of your sister, why don't you fill us in on what she's up to?
Yeah. So I mean, she's having a ton of fun. But first, I'd like to say how first of all, the show was incredible. Production was incredible. Claire's direction was incredible, and as well as the orchestra and band. We really thought we were going to get that nomination because they were again incredible. It was an all student for the most part pit, and they were unbelievable. It was really beautiful and moving music as well as the whole cast. It was a great production. So. Yeah, the Munitzes, we feel very, very fortunate to have been nominated, and Melody is jumping out of her skin. She's so excited, but at the same time, she knows that it was only possible through everyone else's commitment and putting on an incredible show. So she is having a crazy time. She is doing so much. I never get to see her or my mom. They're constantly in the city almost every night. She just performed at the Women in the World Congress and got to be had the conversation with Hillary Clinton. She was there with Barbara Streisand. And Meryl Streep and a few other big names. Then the week right after, she performed in a lead position at at Mayor Bloomberg's, or I guess past Mayor Bloomberg's, Mr. Bloomberg's. I forget what it's called, but it was a recognition dinner, and I guess tickets were something like $100,000 to attend. She was staring right into the face of Morgan Freeman and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and she was up there with some bigwigs. So she's having a great time. She's just performing and loving it. And doing just what she loves, and it all comes back to knowing she has a lot of people back both at home physically and in her communities to support her. So she's having a great time. Yeah.
I hear all the time how wonderful she is. That she's like so talented.
She really is.
And Jen,
It's great.
Oh, yeah.
No, but totally different thing. She's listening to her. It's moving. I cry all the time.
but your parents they've got everything, the science and the arts. They've got it. It's wonderful.
Well, they named us Jazz and Melody. I don't know what they wanted.
We've noticed. We said nothing. It's like
Exactly.
maybe you're letting them down.
Yeah,
they need
could
you
be.
singing
Totally
a little
could
more.
be.
That or a saxophone.
Right,
There you
exactly.
go.
Very smooth. Good. Well, thank you.
The last update is last Thursday. Jim Mackin and the high school folks hosted our annual Project Lead the Way partnership meeting. It's an opportunity for our staff and our kids to showcase what they're doing in our Project Lead the Way courses, from engineering to aerospace to the biomed and the science portion. And we had about half a dozen representatives from the business community who work in the STEM fields, receiving sort of an update from our staff, from Jim, from Tina, and our kids of what they're learning and what they're up to, and trying to find additional opportunities to partner with them, whether it's through internships, job shadowing, opportunities for staff development. And it actually was the next morning, Friday morning, I got an email from an individual who shall remain nameless, who is a physicist at IBM that may or may not be married to a board member, who talked about a STEM program, a Saturday STEM program that IBM hosts that they're trying to get off the ground, and they want Hendrick Hudson to be one of the first schools in the door to participate, which would give students some high access clearance to different things going on at IBM, partner with some scientists and researchers, and learning a little bit more in a rigorous and certainly relevant way what IBM's up to and how that connects with what we're doing in Project Lead the Way. So it's interesting as we as a board and the community sort of wrestle with the day-to-day and budgets and other things, to take a step back and sort of watch how our district and staff and kids are operating at the 30,000 foot level is very, very incredible. Jazz again was one of the student presenters and talked about his experiences with Dr. Rogers and her class and how that prepared him to put the big C on his chest. I don't know if you want to briefly talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, science research, I've definitely beaten to it today, whatever dead horse, whatever that saying is. But science research is one of the most incredible programs. It allows just a high school or some kid with an idea and a train ticket to go up to the high levels of academic realms and give it their all and really try to make an impact on the world. So I highly recommend science research. We'll be having our symposium in a bit, in a few weeks, where anyone from the community can come out and kind of hear us present. Hear us say our two big words, which we barely understand, but definitely try and make it so everyone walks away at least having somewhat of a grip of what we were trying to do throughout our research projects, as well as to kind of drum up new students and parents and excitement about the program. And then in terms of the biomed, with Mrs. Hall, so it was great to be able to talk to some people who were really in the fields, and they were very impressed when we kind of say the kind of things that we're doing, the different tests and assays and whatnot that we run on a day-to-day basis in class, which is very relevant to the field. So that was an incredible experience. I've had a great time in the biomed program. Right now we're working on grants to write up, kind of as almost like a senior present, our biomedical innovations class, who has been through all 4 years of the program, are currently writing these grants about what we think we could really still use in the program and how to make it even better than what it is. So the biomed program is an incredible opportunity. I call it pre-med course. So I'm really going off to college already having a decent grip on a lot of the things which I'll encounter in classes, it's a very unique and very hand-held experience. So yeah, it's just incredible, and I hear the exact same thing about the engineering side as well.
Good, thank you. And lastly, this is not an update, but I'd like to welcome Margaret Roller. Margaret was approved about 20 minutes ago during our 10-year celebration and consent agenda to not refill Alice's shoes, but to continue Alice's good work that she's led in this district for a number of years. Margaret interviewed with 2 different committees, with me twice, because this job is much about fit and experience as it is getting ahead of the curve with curriculum and instruction. And her experiences have led her here from Clarkstown and Arlington and Ardsley, and is maybe not a hometown native, but I came to learn has connections or roots in Queens. And Margaret will certainly help push our district forward. You've heard me say that my vision for our district is to be a destination district. We have a lot of good work and celebrating to do and reflect upon, and we still have a lot of good work ahead of us to make sure we're not playing catch up, but we're ahead of the curve. So as we in 6 weeks' time, wish Alice well into retirement, we have an opportunity to bring Margaret on board and spend some good time transitioning with Alice, meeting with our administrative team, and getting to understand the systems and the people and the culture of our district before she's official on July 1st. So welcome, Margaret, and if you want to make a comment, we would ask that you put it on the record on the microphone.
Well, I just really want to say thank you. I'm honored by this appointment this evening. I have big shoes to fill, and I'm going to try my best to do the job that you're hoping we can do. I feel confident that we can move forward and do some exciting things together. You already have some exciting things going on. I'm so impressed. We'll have to talk. And I just want to say congratulations again. I know that our science folks have scooted out already, but it's an exciting and certainly a benchmark moment in a career that you've had several of, so good for you. We'll look forward to giving you some administrative work. But this is a great place to be. And I'm sorry if I don't remember. I know there were a lot of you that day. There were 23 people in the room, so I apologize if I didn't recognize you at first this evening, but it's thrilling to be here, and I'm really looking forward to a good transition with Alice and getting to know some of you, and then starting July 1st and really getting off the ground. So thank you so much.
Good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And with that, we can.
Joe, could I just ask one question? Because I just wanted to applaud the cost sharing with Croton. I know it's mandated by the state, but I think it's laudable for both our district and our students. It's great. But if you don't mind, I just wanted to get some elaboration, because it seems like there's some really good programs here that could really benefit students, particularly in the educational realm. And I was just wondering how it's going to work. For example, the RISE program, do you know anything about that? It sounds, and that's in Croton, but
Yes.
how it's going to work.
So what Croton is doing is what we started doing here. I'm sorry. What we started doing here about 4 years ago with Lean. They are starting a special education program. It's different than ours. It's not for highly disabled. It's more. It's part of special ed, but I exactly don't know the realm of the special ed, but that's what they are doing. They are saying exactly like us. It's costing them $40,000-$60,000 to send every kid to BOCES, and by doing it there, they save a lot of money. So, but the important part that we did it with Croton is about the shared transportation. As you know, every year in August, the transportation directors of each of the surrounding schools, they get together and they see where we have students going to the same place. And for example, for us, we've saved 4 routes this year. And if we had to send 4 different vans, we're saving about $240,000 a year. So there's a lot that makes sense here that the governor is asking, but honestly, we've been doing that for such a long time that for us, that's why it was so easy to do.
For the tuition programs, even though we're in the shared services agreement, will we still have to pay tuition if we're sending students to Croton, to their programs, say, or?
I don't even know if we're sending our
We don't currently have any students.
Well, it's not in, I don't know if it's, I guess it's, I don't know.
Yes, I
It's,
think what,
I'm just wondering if this is a new program and how it's going to benefit our students, if there is a benefit. And that's great. I just wanted to understand it.
Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to actually send people to them. It's just they're getting savings from it, and then we have programs that we get savings from.
Like REBC.
And so when you're
Right,
together,
no, exactly. I understand that, but
Okay.
no, I just wanted to be able to
If
let
there
our
is a
students
benefit
know
for our
about it.
students.
That's all. You know.
can we use their program if we have a student that fits their criteria?
Very likely the same way that if they have someone that fits our needs, but we will be charging them like the same rate than a student from anywhere else. It's just we decided to combine with them because they needed a little bit of help. They were almost there, and together it was easier for both of us to get to the number that the governor were asking. And actually, my understanding is that when they passed the resolution in Croton, they thanked the board of Henry Hudson for allowing them to do it because we helped them more than what they helped us. So,
I think probably even just having it nearby, this program, and having it close by.
sure.
Right,
Is
yeah.
probably, I mean, just that alone, as opposed to sending them someplace
Yeah, flexible support program as well, so maybe we can hear more about them in the future. Yeah, I think that's great though.
What Stephen sort of shared.
The big thing about it is that this allows our taxpayers to get their tax credit in the fall.
Right, but there's also benefit to students as well.
Well,
Yeah, I just
no,
wanted to- yeah.
but that's the governor's.
I understand that.
About $4 million something like that for education as well. So, thank you. I appreciate your work on this too.
Yes, thank you very much.
This would bring us to our elementary curriculum committee update.
So I've asked Alice to give us an almost year-end review of our work and conversations and adaptations toward implementing the Common Core, the modules, all things new curriculum K-5. As you can see, adjoining Alice is Terry Outhouse, who we said it was a condition of her tenure appointment was to assist in the presentation. But Terry's been a part of this committee for 2 years, and this was something when I came on board, Alice and I had discussions of how we can engage classroom teachers at a deeper level. We had grade level leaders, we had union representatives from the 3 elementary schools, and then we widened the net to include other specialty teachers, special education, reading, more grade level teachers. So this is the work of almost 2 years, but it's not necessarily complete yet, but we wanted to give you a picture of where we are as we head into the summer and into September 2015.
Thank you. So I'm setting the bar for our many presentations tonight. So we have a lot to do. It's a celebration. When we started 2 years ago, we were 3 separate elementary schools with similar but not identical programs in math and in reading and literacy. Our math program has really taken off. We've been working with a consultant from BOCES who's telling everyone in the region that we're ahead of the game, that we're really the exemplars in what we're doing in math. And that's pretty awesome to hear that, because we certainly weren't there years ago. But literacy is much more complicated. There's so many parts of it. And to meet the Common Core and to get the schools on the same page and to have teachers involved in the process of deciding what materials we're using and what strategies we're using, when people are, going back the whole language and back and forth for 100 years, it seems. So we're in a pretty good place right now, and today's a celebration. I'm going to give you the background, and then Kelly's going to provide the meat of the conversation. So we, of course, they're essentials. We always ask the essential questions. Why are we doing this? And the reason we're doing this work is we need our kids to be readers and writers. Bottom line. What are we doing? We're implementing the Common Core with consistency. In 3 buildings, it's not that easy when you've got teachers who have all kinds of backgrounds and interests and experiences. But we're getting there to consistency. And how? This is the committee structure. Teacher leaders, all the principals, Lynn and I, we've got every grade level represented, reading, special education, ELL, we're represented on the committee. So that's our process. And we've met several times, many more times in the first year, and then I would say every other month this year for full days. And good hard work.
Yeah, the structure is a little bit, I think, different this year. In between our large committee meetings, the principals met, and they were able to fine-tune some of the discussions and they're the ones sort of, as much as the teachers are frontline, we're kind of frontline in our classrooms, so they're able to see the more global what's going on and get a lot of feedback. So I think that was really beneficial as well. So we went from large to then the principals were able to hash things out and bring it back to the large group, which was really beneficial.
And all under the guidance of a systems guru who's Judy Carr, who's working with us through BOCES, has come to us, but is really guiding this work. Of course, we're research-based. We're always research-based. And this is pretty interesting, I think. Every elementary teacher has to be a reading teacher. We know that. But that means lots of guidance and support and training. And we might hear some pleas for a literacy coach in this conversation, because it's certainly coming out loud and clear that it would be helpful. We know that kids need to read a lot, and they need to read on their level. We know that they need very consistent and systematic phonics instruction as they're learning how to decode. And when you think about mapping the 26 letters to 44 sounds, that's a daunting task. And finally, what we're learning is that small children understand so much more than they can read. And in families where children are read to constantly, that happens. But that doesn't happen in every family and in every part of our society. So Read Aloud has become, we know it's very important that part of the reading program include Read Aloud in wonderful literature, and nonfiction and fiction. So this is what the research tells us, and you'll see that the work we've done supports this. It's based on this research.
How do we support that?
Like with books on tape or those kind of things?
Oh, the Read Aloud, actually, you'll hear more about that. It's very much a part of our program. And it's an important part, and it's based in a lot of research. So, now we get to the nitty-gritty.
So, an extensive amount of work was done over the past 2 years, and like I said, there was bumps, there was bruises, there was everything along the way, and really tried to listen to the classroom teachers, and again, the principals being on board, being on the same page, and bringing information back to the large committee on what they're hearing within the classrooms as they're going through their walkthroughs was really pertinent in setting some of these parameters. And that's just what it is. They're parameters. So the parameters that we're looking at for literacy, for scheduling in order to fit the necessary literacy in is the 75 minutes for math instruction, 90 minutes for ELA instruction, which will include the domains from Amplify at the K2 level, and in those domains, that's where you'll get the interactive Read Aloud. From fairy tales to Christopher Columbus, nations, folk tales, it runs its gamut of both fiction and nonfiction interactive. They call them interactive Read Alouds. Then for the grades 3 through 5, they're using modules from Expeditionary Learning. Again, this is also from the Engage New York website that we've been able to use as our resource. Writing instruction and the skills work, which we're returning to foundations for our skills work for kindergarten through second grade. And within that's within the 90 minutes of ELA time. The expectation is to have that instruction going on. In addition, they'll have the 60 minutes of GRARE. And GRARE is guided reading and accountable independent reading. And the guided reading is your small group instruction. It's where you pull your small groups together, you give them the needs that the children, you identify the needs that the children have, and you work with them in small group instruction. And then the accountable independent reading piece is what the rest of the class is sort of doing while you're having your small group instruction. And so how we hold them accountable, whether it's through peer review, chat, peer talking, it could be through reading logs, journals, mini conferences. There's several different formats that we could show that they're being accountable, and independent means it's at their just right level. And during this time will be when we have our AIS support. So our reading support will be during this 30 minutes of time. So what the vision is, when some of your students may be pulled out for reading AIS, the classroom teacher is working with the group that's in the classroom, and when those children return, you still have 30 minutes to do the double dosing that would need to really meet our AIS Tier 2 services. In addition to that, we want to allow the 20 minutes of daily, hopefully, of the social studies science. A lot of that is integrated in the Read Alouds at the K2 level. And as I said, talking about the history and the science, whether it's plants, whether it's the social studies of Christopher Columbus. I think first grade we actually talked about Mesopotamia, which was really interesting. And what's great is just a little aside story is I'm in an ICT class right now, first grade ICT, and I have this child, pretty much a non-reader, and he sits and he listens to these interactive read alouds, and he is one of my most active participants. He remembers, he sees the pictures, and you can discuss, and that's really, that kind of opens your eyes of, sure, they might have a lot of work to be done when it comes to decoding and reading information, but how great we're still building a lot of this foundation that hopefully once it clicks for this child, that they'll have all this background knowledge and the comprehension will be intact. And then our most recent is the district-wide homework assignment that we expect every child to be read to or to read for 20 minutes every night. Because it's really important that our children have eyes on print, or again, because of the correlation of the comprehension to the readability, it actually doesn't level out until 8th grade. 8th grade is when a child's reading ability and comprehension actually then start matching, which was when I read that statistic. It was a big eye-opener of expect our children to do in the classroom, and the comprehension from our math board problems to all that. They really do need to have a lot of red to.
So now we're going to break it down a little further. We don't have to kill it, but
Kill it. So what was decided again at parameters is the kindergarten through grade 2 will be using the interactive read aloud, which will be the domains from Amplify as I discussed. The skills instructional again will be returning the foundations. Guided reading is on level of an instructional level. Independent reading is just what it sounds like. And then the teachers will also be using their trade books, their favorite trade books to use in their classroom. For grades 3 through 5, it will look a little bit different. They have modules from Expeditionary Learning, which is really it's heavy social studies and science. And the goal is to integrate writing and skills instruction within those modules. It really will allow, with some professional development and some work, will allow for especially a lot of nonfiction writing to be embedded and integrated in. And again, trade books for fiction and informational text, and we'll continue to use some test prep materials to get our students ready.
I just have a very quick question.
Sure.
Next year, then, you're going to be using K through 2. You're going to be using the Amplify program, and you're going to go back to foundations again. So
Correct.
both programs are going to be.
There were 2 parts, and they're distinct, quite separate from Amplify. There's the interactive read aloud and the skills piece. And last year, when the committee determined the skills piece was the way to go, no one had really experienced it yet. It was brand new. And through the course of the year, many people were mourning the loss of what Foundations offers. And our teachers have been trained, and we have materials. We feel it's the whole committee, and talking to teachers and talking to the principals, really felt it was the reasonable way to go. Now, does that mean everything that we have from the skills strand is going? Of course not. There are very good lessons, and teachers have spent a lot of time creating smartboard lessons to go with it, and they integrate. It doesn't mean that you throw out everything. But the program as a whole had holes. You know, kids weren't expected to write in kindergarten. That's kind of scary. We know that writing is one way we learn to read.
No, I'm just concerned because it was an expensive program that we,
But that was,
into.
the big expense of the program was the domain part, the interactive read aloud, not the skills part.
Okay.
Okay? That was, getting those books, that was the expense.
Right, and we're going to keep the books.
Absolutely, they're wonderful. Okay. So this is breaking down guided reading and the accountable independent reading. GRARE is a great big new concept. In education we're famous for that. So we've talked about the
Right. That is similar to exactly what I mentioned when we talked about as the whole literacy parameters. I went pretty in depth on what guided reading and accountable independent reading will look at different grade levels. And this is really where the teachers do need assistance, whether it's through learning logs or whether it's through work with the reading specialist to help them get the accountable independent reading piece up and running. I think our teachers are really excellent at the guided reading and the small group instruction. It's helping them manage what are the students doing while I have a small group going on, especially at the K2 level where K1, the students aren't very independent to begin with. So what are they doing that can sustain them for decent periods of time, and what does that look like at each level?
and of course next steps. So there you go, Margaret, next steps. Of course, summer curriculum writing projects.
It's a familiar slide.
You've seen this before, I'm
Yes.
sure of it. Yes, you've probably written many of them. Anyway, we're looking to integrate writing into the domains and the modules. So that's planned for the summer writing, summer workshop, big summer workshop planned for this summer for elementary leaders to work again with Judy and with others to bring the work to the buildings. And finally, lots of call for professional development. And our professional development in math was so strong and so excellent that I believe that's why we are where we are right now. And it's time to move that into the literacy piece, which is more complicated, but we can do it.
We've begun using the term routine use this year. Routine use, we need to, exactly what Terry and Alice talked about, we need to make this routine in classrooms. And where I sit, and I think where we sit as a board at the 30,000 foot level, is we have to guarantee to families, that it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, your zip code, or what school you go to, you will have a set of comparable educational experiences using comparable educational resources. And while respecting each school has its own DNA based on kids and culture and climate and staffing and demographics and all of those things, but we are zeroing in on a district curriculum, a district set of expectations where we can bring teachers together across grade levels, across schools, and talk about best practice. Because where I get really nervous is what the Common Core has forced school districts to do is talk about what we're teaching. And we're struggling with the what, which is the curriculum. And now we have to turn the corner and get to the how and talk about best practices and instructional strategies, because it's instruction that will engage kids in the curriculum. So we're getting there. I think these three bulleted next steps pretty much sum up our life in K-5. It's not all that different at the secondary level, but the secondary level hasn't been as impacted by the Common Core. So great work by the committee. It was hard, as I'll wrap up with what Alice said. It was it's an emotional process, because when you've been in the field for 10, 15, 20, and 30 years, you're used to a set of resources, you're used to a philosophy of how to teach and how to assess, and good, bad, or indifferent. What the Common Core has done is it has asked us to look in the mirror to evaluate what we're teaching and how we're teaching. So it's a new baseline, which makes organizations like us very nervous, but it's good for kids, and we're chipping away at it.
Oh, don't go away.
No, we have 2 more presentations and a policy. And we have to, and 45 minutes.
Attitude question?
Okay, you may ask the question, Charles.
Well, then I'm going to give you my arm, because 10 questions I'm going home.
We do have to get to the vote, just saying.
Okay.
Yes, Charles.
Do you have questions about it?
Well, as I was listening to this, I read an interview with Margaret this week, and it talked about how the Common Core is a set of outcomes, and that districts will have a lot of flexibility how they get there. You know, that still gives a lot of control. There's a lot of angst around the Common Core is that it's a really locked-in thing to do, but it's not. It's an outcome. What I'm hearing you discuss is a lot of differentiation in how the students learn in the classroom.
Well, we have.
Even the teacher can have some differentiation in how they teach. Is that?
That's so great that you picked up on that. You know, we have to remember we're teaching children. We're not teaching program. We're teaching children. And the ultimate goal is to create readers and writers.
Yep.
And we can't forget that for 1 second.
I missed one thing though in the presentation. Where's the play for the kindergartners?
My favorite question, the play for kindergartners. It's integrated into that social studies science, which is integrated. We've talked about that because play is the work of a kindergartner. And you're reading a ton of research about play in all the newspapers now because it's so important. This is how children learn to negotiate the world. And we're loud and clear on that. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. We can find some more. That will not be.
Charles, have
You
more
will
questions?
not get off that easy.
I'll find
Alice.
more.
We will think of something.
Yeah, we'll think of something else.
Yeah. All right. Lynn, would you like to do some pupil personnel?
Good evening. Back in September of this school year, I had presented to you a PPS audit implementation plan. It was based on recommendations by Judith Hirshorn when she did an audit last year around this time. So what I'd like to do is walk us through really what the recommendations were and what the current reality is, and really the highlights of what we've done this year in pupil personnel services. So the recommendations are on the left side and the current reality or highlights are on the right side. It was proposed that we reorganize the special education office to a pupil personnel office We are in the process and are continuing to redefine our office, and we're really moving forward. We're not saying all things special ed anymore, we're saying all things PPS, which means that there's a shift in the understanding and the thinking of staff members and parents in our district that we are moving towards a pupil personnel model. That means that we're not just talking about special ed, we're talking about the work of our related service providers in the areas of psychology, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and really being a preventive, proactive model as we move forward. And also working with curriculum and instruction hand in hand. We've had the opportunity in our office under our different departments to meet this year, just yesterday as a matter of fact. So you see psychologists and speech therapists and special educators meeting together after school as a professional learning group, talking about education, talking about kids, and what we need in the areas of professional development to move forward. So I really see our teams or groups in our departments really becoming professional learning groups this year, and I think it's a wondrous thing. They're becoming great colleagues and learners of one another. We'll continue to brand us as a PPS office. That means, we've changed our website, we've changed our letterhead, we changed the way we answer the phones in our office. We really are not saying special ed anymore, we're saying pupil personnel services. Another recommendation that the audit brought forward was to establish an additional CPSE or CSE, Committee on Special Education chairperson. I thank you for your support in being allowed to place in the budget this year a position for that chairperson that we eventually moved towards as an assistant director for pupil personnel services. We will be posting on OLAS, we've posted internally, and we'll be moving forward to interview and put a person in place for the summer. This will allow me to do some 30,000 feet stuff. I've had some opportunity to do some of that work with Alice and Joe this year, being on the literacy committee, but there's so much more to do in the area of pupil personnel. So it'll allow me to be out there more visibly in the classrooms, in the buildings, providing professional development on site to our teachers, and really just overseeing services in general. Another recommendation was to define, this was really office related, define the roles and responsibilities of our office staff and taking note of timelines and procedures and efficiency and really looking at the fiscal management piece of our office. We've done that. You saw a directory that I placed before you in September. Our secretaries know the jobs and duties that they have to do. We're meeting timelines. We have established procedures in our office. I'm glad this year that we've spent the time this entire year when a procedure needs to be developed, we add it to the procedural manual. And I know that there are people on the board that want to see that procedural manual happen, and it's evolving now, and we will codify it in the summer. We've had improved fiscal management to the PPS office with making sure that stacks are completed, and we're working on Medicaid. And as I said before, we'll get that procedural manual done. So lots of changes within our office itself. And that will continue to be realigned with the position of the assistant director. Another recommendation was to continue to work on refining integrated co-teaching classes and programs. I hope that Terry would say that I am in the buildings, I am in the co-talk classes, and I have seen a lot of great things. And I've also been able to do a needs assessment and where we need to do some work going forward in co-teaching. Just yesterday, again, when I met with the elementary special ed teachers, they're waiting for those co-teaching workshops. Margaret made me remember them when we did the institutes at Arlington. They really were powerful ways that teachers could learn how to co-teach together, plan together, and then share ideas back as a group, and really have some embedded coaching on the job to see that the work was happening in the classrooms. Another recommendation was to explore options district-wide for Tier 2 interventions when it is in regards to response to intervention. We had to take a step back and really look at our response to intervention model across the district, and especially in the elementary buildings. I have to give kudos to our 3 elementary principals, along with Joe and Alice and Matthew. we made it a focus this year to really look at response to intervention. We had administrative team meetings, we had grade level meetings, I attended faculty meetings, attended RTI meetings. We have done a lot of work in looking at what response to intervention is, and we're ready to develop a district plan and have it presented to you, to the Board of Ed. We want to build a district plan as well as an individual building plan for each building, because it looks differently at each building. 504 accommodation plans to the building. This was a recommendation made by Judith Hirschhorn, and it's something that I really, when I came in, I said full force, okay, we have to move those to the building levels. I'm not so sure yet. I really am listening to our school building principals, listening to parents, listening to where we are at, and right now the 504 plans remain in the PPS office. We did do work this year in educating principals on the 504 process, but I feel at this time that it needs to remain with PPS a little bit longer. I want to just step back a minute. There's a lot of other work that's been done in PPS this year beyond these recommendations. You know, I had the opportunity to spend a significant time with Judy Carr and Joe and the administrative team on the literacy committee. Also be a Dignity Act coordinator for the district. Just do a lot of work and relationship building with our staff and our administrators here. A week from today, I would be, I'm a year in, it's my anniversary. And I have to say that when I stood up here a year ago, just like Margaret is tonight, I am so happy to be here. I'm so proud of the staff that I work with each and every day. And it's a true blessing to see that those highlights or those plans moving forward were the result of their work, not mine. So moving forward for our priorities for summer and 2015-16, I know I have a lot up there. I'm one of those people that put a lot up there. Again, it's really important that we acclimate that new person to our office and clearly define their role and what they'll be doing. Finalize that procedural manual. Really cement the response to intervention plan with a district plan that is board approved. Increase our work in the area of mental health, and we've been talking about this. Our social workers, our psychologists want more information in this area. We want more policies, more guidelines, more procedures in place to work with kids who experience anxiety or have mental health issues. And this is one of the areas that is my high area of interest, and I really want to do the work in this area next year. Along with that is, I've made a lot of connections in the school district. I've made a lot of connections to the outside schools that we have our students placed in, but want to connect with other agencies. I'm going to be on the Portland Coalition now, so really get out and do that community work as well to build bridges and connections for our kids. I've been able to focus on data this year. You saw a little bit when I presented to the board for the budget process. I really would like to look at our LAP schools and really get in much deeper into those plans and look at reading levels, look at achievement levels, and look at what is happening with our students with disabilities to close that achievement gap for all schools and for all kids, but especially in those LAP schools. And then finally, you might have heard something from Mr. Hochreiter about an alternative instruction plan. I had the opportunity to develop one in my previous district, and I know that when students are out due to being suspended or having other types of difficulties, I want them to be out. I want them to be learning, most importantly, regardless of them being out of school based on a consequence. So I think it's very important that we come up with a creative way beyond tutoring our kids while they're out, to come up with maybe a program for them where they can come, they can have a solid base of teachers and people who can keep track of their learning while they're out due to various reasons. So those are my priorities for our department, and I think I also believe that they will be highlights for next year as we talk next year. You're welcome.
You want to go first, Charles? Thank you, Lynn. I know it's been a busy year. So my concerns about the audit initially were that it was really focused on the staffing and the building, and I know there's a lot of work to be done there, but just for the future, I think we really need to see the focus on the students and progress. And I know it's hard from a board level to look down from our level because it's all so individualized. But I just, I think we really need to get away from focusing on staff, because that should be essentially done by this year, I would hope. And I would hope the procedural manual, I know you targeted June 30th, but this summer, that would be great. But just some things to highlight that I've noticed that should be codified in the procedural manual and that we could talk about more as a board, I think. And we could talk about more. I'm not going to have too much time to go through everyone. But I think the child find process and education, professional development of staff, what the IST, the instructional support teams actually do, how children are referred, certainly better improved evaluations, better monitoring of students, including 504. What continuum do we need? Do we need more of a continuum here? Do we need more special classes? Yeah, those are, I think there are some definite things that we could work on with our students. Of course, transition services. You mentioned reaching out to the community for the CDOS and the skills credential. We should have work programs in the community. We can, students can walk to some of the businesses here. So that would be a great thing to think of for the future. For developing these essential career skills. And I think part of that is not mandating or thinking that every student will graduate at 18. Some students will need an extra year. And that's something to work on with the state. And then another thing, monitoring the suspensions is key, because, and that could be a shared service. Perhaps some of the local districts there's no interim alternative educational settings really that districts have. So perhaps there could be one developed at a central location for local districts. That's just a few things, but I just wanted to ask that when the procedural manual was done, that it would look at all those issues, because as you noted, this is for every student in our district, not just that's what the PPS model is about. And we have to really make sure we're protecting our most vulnerable students. So thank you for the work here. But I think I'd like to see focus on the students for the future presentations. So.
Everything that you mentioned, although it's not in the audit, has been on my mind, has been talked about, has been worked on. We are working in those areas as well this year too. This was just totally based on the audit.
Right. No, I think the audit was limited. That's what but no, thank you. I'm sure you are working on it. I just, I think we need a way to.
And I'll echo your comments, Marion, and tie into what we talked about with the curriculum committee. Is that it's that next layer we're trying to get to in terms of I talked about how the instruction. Lynn and myself and Alice have had the conversation too about what's happening in terms of the interface between teacher and children and what those programs and supports look like, because we have to get through the organizational stuff and have the guts of the department up and running in order to get there. But it's what you've commented on is not new to us, and we'll make sure we turn that corner and provide those updates.
Thank you.
I'll ask the simple one first. When you mention policies, does the board need to write policies?
I think we need to. I think we need to do some work in that area. I can highlight some areas that we should look towards in the areas of students with disabilities, suicide prevention. So yes, I think that the policy committee, I could give them some ideas to look at policies.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the ITC classes going into them, but I think in the presentation when I was reading it said just K to 8. Are you going into the high school soon?
I have.
And when you do that, you go in with the principals. And is there? How do you kind of do it?
It's been a little bit of both. I've gone in with principals. I've gone in mostly by myself. I have not gone to the high school this year in the sense of visiting a lot of classrooms. I decided that with holding over 200 CSE meetings and getting the audit plan in place and doing the work, I devoted my time to the elementary and middle school this year. That's where I looked at. But high school is definitely next year.
Because I remember last year in the interview with the 28 people, you talked about getting up in the morning and reading while you're on your treadmill, so you can hit the ground running. Could you talk a little bit more about the alternative suspension program or the alternative instruction, how you do that?
Yeah, sure. The way I designed alternative instruction before was I created a program from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. So it was basically the back end of the elementary transportation run and the front end of the high school run. Kids would come to a location on our school property, it was at central office. There were 2 classrooms right across from my office. We would have no more than 30 students between the 2 classrooms. We had a teacher that was certified in English as well as special education, and then a teacher that was, sorry, I have something in my throat, a teacher that was certified in math and science. And so every single day, if a student had difficulty in school, was out on suspension, they would be placed in a list, and that list would be transferred to my office by 2:30 in the afternoon. Parents would be notified that the student would be, attending the program, and they would come with their work, and the school would send up work.
So they would start the very next day?
They'd start the very next day. So I'll just give you a hard example. If a student was suspended at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and the parent was notified, a portal was made, an icon was on my computer, and the principal would drop the student in there, and they would know to send up work, and the student would arrive that next day. It was that seamless. We had students that were suspended, students that were returning from hospitalizations, students that were struggling, just struggling in the middle of school or high school, and needed a break, from the larger setting. It was highly successful. We had students who sometimes did not want to go back to their home school because they felt more comfortable in that smaller environment. We also had a counseling component where their guidance counselor, or if they were working with a social worker or a psychologist, would come up and pull them out for the counseling piece. Our real goal was to try to make them finally, thank you. Our real goal was trying to make them realize that the behavior that they did, how are we going to change that, and how are we going to transition them back to the school. So it was highly successful, and I believe it would work here.
And I'll weigh in. BOCES is attempting to develop a similar program. I think.
They actually have developed it too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bedford started out on the eastern side of the district, and they started marketing it this year. Jim Mackin went and spent half a day meeting with the administrators and sort of walking the program. I think so. There's a model, whether that meets our needs, and you get into transportation issues, but there's a model. There's certainly an interest in trying to find gray area and flexibility, because right now, you suspend and you have tutoring, and we hope that you get your work done and then you come back. We've got to find a different way, and in a cost-effective way also, because we can't duplicate every service, so we've got to do it in a responsible manner too.
I'm sorry, I missed that piece. This is a shared service that you did? You said it was across?
It was not a shared service
Oh,
for the
okay.
district that I worked in.
Well, you were
but it
saying
could
2
be.
classrooms, and you were talking, but I mean, I'll be honest with you, and how do you pay for that? I mean, that's a lot of money.
That was a district with 9,000 students, right?
But we also took our home tutoring money
Okay.
because we no longer had to use a great
No, I
deal of
appreciate
money.
that. I'm just wondering where you.
Yep,
I
we
mean,
took the home tutoring money and poured it into that program. We still had, say, some elementary kids who may have had an operation where we had to provide a tutor for, but we took the large majority of our home tutoring funds and placed them in the
And that
program.
was sufficient to support. I mean, you talked about several teachers and a social component.
The teachers
that was
were
enough to.
0.6 of their, they were a 0.6 FTE.
It's a lot. I just.
Well, we had talking about this during the summer retreat. We talked about it at our last board meeting.
There's an opportunity, there's an opportunity and a need, and I think we can build a program. We can look at our budget. I know Lynn and I have made a commitment to look at what our tutoring budget is, to look at whatever staffing flexibility we may have, where perhaps there is a 0.2 teacher out there, or something that we can put together a model and test it. But the reality is, when students are out of school, there isn't the guarantee that they're as academically connected yet. On the other end, you have your code of conduct and you have your consequences, and we've got to find a middle ground.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about it, but just the details. I mean, were the kids there all day? Was it like a regular school day? Did come in on-
They came from 10 to 1, so they came on the back side of our elementary transportation run and the front side of our high school run. So they were with me from 10 to 1.
So
There
then you
was-
had your buses, then
Yeah.
our buses transported them? I mean, kids, you sent buses out to pick these kids up to bring them?
Yes, we had
This after-
two buses, 2 runs, 2 different school bus routes to pick them up in a, let's see, I can't remember the square mileage in that district, but it was large.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Those kids were probably on the bus for
Yeah.
quite a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And moving right along, Matthew, you have 12 and a half minutes. We're shooting for a 8:45, 8:50 adjournment to head down to the
No,
vote.
No,
before
we-
then, they
we have
close
to be
the
over.
doors at 9 o'clock.
So we have to
They
be there
won't let you
before
in.
9.
Right, they won't let us in.
Well, that's what I said, we're shooting for a 8:45 adjournment.
Just, well, let's not do
Just
please
say
don't.
it.
Please don't. 11 and a half, Matthew.
Matthew,
Well, at 8:30. So this is an exciting night. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your anniversary, Lynn. Congratulations on your second tenure. And Annie, nice to see you. So for me, it's also exciting professionally because it's a kind of a recap of the year, the work we've been doing this past year, and also looking forward to the coming year and some of the projects we're undertaking. So that's kind of the objective tonight, is to go over some of those things. And really, I'm going to touch on 4 areas. The capital project, which you've been updated on before, but we've kind of at another step in that process. The Smart Schools Bond, which we've talked about. Our instructional technology coach program, and then finally our summer upgrades this year. As you know, we have a regular summer process for upgrades, and I wanted to kind of give you an update on what we'll be doing this summer. So first, let's go through the capital project. This is on the left side. Lynn and I did not coordinate this, but it just worked out this way. On the left side is things that are completed, the portions of the capital project that have already been completed. So our entire network infrastructure is completed, the Wi-Fi access is completed, internet access, our wide area network, which is a connection between the buildings, has been upgraded to 10 times the speed that we had before. We deployed 500 Chromebooks this year in a pilot program with our coaches, and we installed that built-in furniture in 4 of our schools for our computers. So that's all of that is completed, paid for, wrapped up, done. And smart boards too, 68 smart boards. So that's the bulk of the capital project. Coming up is really, there's only one piece left, and that's the electric and the air conditioning in our server closets. We have 12 locations. That's the piece we were waiting for Albany to approve. That took about a year to get approved. It has finally been approved. I did a walkthrough with the architects. We went into every closet. We have finalized the type of equipment and the location and how it's all going to work. And they're preparing to bid now. So once that goes out to bid, we're hoping that we get that done in the summer, this summer. We're planning for a pretty major shutdown, a 3-day shutdown of the entire district at the last week of July, like a Thursday night to Monday morning. I will be sending out a lot of notification once that's definite. But that's for the closet in this building where everything is housed. We have to shut everything off to put the air conditioning in there. So all the other schools we can kind of work around, but that one we do have to shut everything off. So that's the capital project. Smart Schools Bond, as we've talked about, this came out of the November election. This was Governor Cuomo's proposal. We did complete a needs analysis with our staff. We did do the stakeholder input process, had meetings with faculty, administrators, PTA was involved. So we got a lot of input from people on how they want us to spend that money and what they wanted us to focus on. We designed, in concept, what we want to do, which is deploy security, upgrade our security systems throughout the district, upgrade our phone system throughout the district, and upgrade our entry doors throughout the district. So it's all focused around security. And as you recall, the Smart School Bond had 4 areas that you could work on, that you could use the money for. 2 of them don't apply to us. One of them is classroom technology, which we just did in our own bond. So this really was a good fit for us. It really was the only area that kind of made sense, and there is a need. So the timing is really good for us to be to have access to that money. So last meeting or the meeting before, you approved that concept, that design of how we're going to move forward with that process. So that's been done. A couple of weeks ago, I did a walkthrough again with the vendors and with Cisco. We walked the entire district. We specified, well, we didn't specify, but we kind of developed a wish list for where we would like to place cameras, replace cameras, add cameras, and put in enhanced security. So they're working right now. Their engineers are designing that project. We also have submitted a master plan for the district of all the phones. Just a reminder, the plan for the phones is to replace all the existing phones as well as adding a phone in every instructional space so every teacher has access to a phone on their desk. So that's a pretty big change in, as far as making people's lives a little easier and more efficient.
And necessary.
Yes. And with that whole system is a really enhanced level of security in terms of 911 calling, access, particularly the middle school in Furnace Woods, for phones where there's no cell phone coverage, and we've talked about all that. So what we need to do still with the Smart Schools Bond, Albany finally did release some detailed guidance, so we have some more information. Last time I met with you, it was kind of vague. They have, for years, they asked us to submit an annual technology plan in order to get E-rate funding, and then a couple of years ago, they gave up. They said, forget it, you don't have to do that anymore, and now they're saying you have to do it again, and they're tying it to the Smart Schools Bond. So basically what they want us to do is resubmit our technology plan, and really, again, remember this is all linked back to Park. They want to see what we have in place and what our plans are and make sure that we're ready for park testing if it comes, which we are. So we're required to submit a new technology plan, which I'll be doing over the summer. Deadline for that is October. Once that is approved, then we can move forward with the Smart Schools Bond plan. So next steps are we have vendors coming in with actual phones and cameras to demonstrate. We did a walkthrough, Anthony Merlini and I, with John to talk about cameras, and John Anderson, a security person at the high school, had a lot of input about where we need cameras in this campus in particular and what kinds of cameras. So we'll be looking at specific devices. Once we have that finalized, we'll be going back to the administrative team and getting some input from them. Revise the whole plan, and then we submit the plan to Albany. Once they approve it, we will do the installation. As far as the funding, it's a reimbursable project, so the district will lay out the costs and then get reimbursed from Albany. And of course, training. Not too much. Basically, when it rings, pick it up. But a little. So that's the Smart Schools Bond. And then last, and this is kind of the most exciting thing for me, is our Instructional Technology Coaches program. So last year we appointed 13 coaches. You appointed 13 coaches from all the different schools. And those coaches have been working really hard this year. We did a big push to train them at the start of the school year. We brought in an outside trainer. I spent a lot of time with them. And to kind of get them, they were already at a high level of expertise, but to get them at an even higher level and to talk to them about coaching and working with teachers. So that has that was completed, and we focused this year on smart boards. And every teacher in the district has received training. Teachers who we felt were at a very, very basic level have been moved to the next level up. We did not focus on what we call advanced users this year because we felt like we had to make priorities about our time. So we did train teachers. We also, last month and this month, spent some time training teacher aides to get them some basic proficiency in using the smart boards. And then another big initiative was the mobile learning pilot. So all of the coaches had a Chromebook cart this year, and they really learned a lot through hands-on experience. And that's really what I wanted. I didn't want to have 200 teachers figuring this out on their own. I wanted to have 13 teachers figuring it out and then take their expertise and bring it to the rest of the staff. So that went really well. They learned a lot of things that work and a lot of things that don't work. And tonight, you appointed 13 new coaches, right? That was on the agenda, right? Yes. 2 coaches are not returning from next year, and 2 new coaches came on, so that just worked out that way. We still have 13 coaches that were appointed tonight.
So they're not new.
Yeah.
2 are new.
2 are new. Right. Sorry.
I was going to say what happened.
Yeah. 2 felt like it just wasn't, this is a little too much work, and it wasn't a good fit for them. So we'll have 13 coaches again next year. I'm actually meeting with the coaches this week on Thursday. We have a full day session where we're going to be kind of doing a self-evaluation of the year, doing some critical reflection, what worked and what didn't as far as the program. I think I told you that logistically there was some challenges that we kind of worked through, but there are some hurdles that are just structural that we can't necessarily resolve. And then we're going to get into the details of rolling out all of those carts next year, because actually probably starting in June, those carts are going to be distributed out into the buildings. A number of teachers have been saying, I'm ready, I don't want to wait anymore, can you please have the carts? And I've been saying, no, not yet, be patient. And they have been patient, but we have June 5th, I think, we're going to be training the English department at the middle school. They're ready to go, but I really said to them, you can't go until you get the training, so we're doing special training for them. And then so next year there will be the full rollout of all those carts. We also are purchasing, or did purchase, some Chromebook cabinets, which are small boxes, so the carts hold 30, which is a class set. We purchased some small boxes that hold 5 for elementary classrooms that have a lot of students, the largest elementary classrooms. So those will be assigned to the 3 elementary schools, and the principals will put them in they'll follow the largest classrooms. So the largest classrooms will have some extra devices if they need them. That's the Instructional Technology Coaches Program. Last thing is our summer upgrade, and we have 2 kind of focus areas, the district-wide and then the high school. So Mr. Catalan and I were talking, we had a little bit of a close call with our payroll system a few weeks ago. Nothing terrible, just something not working. And we revisited the idea of a disaster recovery solution for payroll, and we're going to be implementing basically it's what's called a warm site, where there's going to be there's a company on Long Island called Granite Tech, where they take our entire database every night from Finance Manager, and they have a server with this program updated and running. And if we had a disaster at the district office, either fire, flood, anything like that, or we couldn't get in and it was a payroll week, they would take our database, they would send us a laptop, a printer, and 500 checks, and Debbie DeCiccio would be printing checks in her house. So we're going to be putting that backup plan in place, or wherever. You could go to a hotel or wherever and still get that payroll done. So that's going to be happening this summer. We're also going to be upgrading Finance Manager, which is a human resources, payroll, requisitioning, accounts payable suite of tools. It's a very old program. It's used pretty widely around here. It's a very stable, solid program, but it is old. And they are finally upgrading it to a modern database, a web-based database. It's called Envision. We're going to be doing that upgrade at the end of August. That's going to be a 3-day process when Finance Manager is down, and they'll be upgrading that. We're also going to be implementing something called Timepiece. Do I need to stop? Should I stop?
No, you're good.
I'm good? Okay.
Yep, you're good.
You said timepiece and stop. I thought it was we just bought something up there.
I'll keep it moving. Timepiece is a module for Finance Manager, which allows us to do biometric entry and exit of people in the building. So this is related to the Affordable Care Act and making sure that our part-time employees only don't work over a certain number of hours a week. We want to be able to accurately track their hours each week, and Timepiece allows you to do that. It's sort of in an automated fashion. So they come into the building, they put in a PIN, they scan their thumb, and it tracks their time in the district. And it gives you alerts if they're approaching the limits.
You said part-time or all?
No, all of them, the ones that are full-time, we already offer health insurance.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's for everyone, but specifically, we need to track the hours of the part-time. The full-times we already offer.
Eventually, it can be used as a attendance, integrated with our attendance. So instead of people coming in and signing a paper ledger, they come in and they enter their PIN code, just like at a hospital or an office where you go in and you electronically sign in. So that's where that'll give us that capability. Another big, interesting project underway that just started on Monday of this week is the revisions of the elementary report cards. My third time doing it.
Good boy, man.
Just saying. Third time.
Bet a lot of kids would be fine if you didn't.
I know. So the teachers had asked to do this last year, and I really held them off because I felt like we weren't really into the Common Core enough to really be able to do that. It was kind of too much, and they're definitely ready for it now. So we started the process on Monday. We had a full day meeting with 13 elementary teachers. We have a good vision. Everybody wants it to be simpler, in parent-friendly language, shorter, fewer indicators, and really accurate and reliable. So everybody's on the same page as that, and there's going to be, I think, 8 groups of standards. Within that, no more than 5 indicators. So right now, that typical elementary report card has maybe 140 indicators, which is a problem on many levels. The new one will be somewhere around 35 or 40. So we may not get it on one page, but that would be a nice goal. But it'd be like 1.5 pages. Some of them now are 7 or 8 pages. So that's underway. We'll be meeting again in June to work on some more indicators and standard groups, and then we have time set for the summer. We have dates for the summer if we need to, and then even going into the fall, we'll have a draft to bring to the first grade level leaders meetings, grade level meetings in September. Start getting feedback from the wider grade levels. A couple of revisions built in, and then we'll be good to go by the first report card.
Did you skip the website?
Can I skip it?
No, it was there.
Oh, did you
Do you want me to skip it?
No, did you talk about it?
Oh, not yet.
It's next.
Oh, okay.
Website. So this, we have contracted with a new company to provide our school, district, and teacher web pages, and that process was facilitated with Annie's excellent help and Alex Levine, Nina Levine, Penny Hines, some teacher volunteers all served in that committee to evaluate our website. And then we had another committee that evaluated the vendors that bid on this project. We picked a new vendor called Sharp School. We sent them our template. We're in the second revision. So I should have something to show Mr. Huckrider and other administrators soon as far as the first draft. We're hoping to be able to cut over on July 1st so that we're not paying for the 2 companies because the current contract expires July 1st. I think we'll be able to do that over the summer. There's going to be some modifications. It's not going to be done on July 1st, but it'll be up and running, and we'll be working on it over the summer. And related to that is online forms. This is something we've been talking about. People have been asking me this for years. Can we get rid of all these paper forms and colored paper forms and outdated paper forms and people never knowing where the proper form is? So this website software has an electronic form routing capability. So we're hoping to be able to start to transition and for our internal forms to get rid of those paper forms and use this electronic form. And then on the simple side of things is the high school is up this year for computer upgrades. So all computers in the high school are being replaced. We'll be purchasing 190 desktops, 80 Dell Windows laptops, 50 additional Chromebooks, 25 iMacs, and redoing the furniture in 3 of the computer labs. And that's all part of our regular 5-year computer replacement plan. That's it. Thank you. Questions?
Hold on. You're good.
I just want to chime in. If you could go back to the coaching. A year ago, we came to the board, a little over a year ago, with this model in the budget that included the concept of instructional coaches, financing for it through stipends as well as staff development. This is going to create a trend in our district around not just use of instructional technology, but teachers who have aptitude or unique skills in math and ELA. We have a teacher leadership model that is generated through stipends or seniority or so on and so forth. And what we have found with the technology coaches is this instructional leadership are about people who use technology effectively, efficiently, with high outcome strategies, and they have stepped up and have led their peers. And I think this is a model we're going to need to talk about in the grand scheme of things, instead of just stipends and titles and department chairs and grade level leaders. This is going to be, I think, a way that we change how we support each other in the classroom. And part of Thursday's conversation is lessons learned from the coaches this year. And some of the lessons I know that people have reported to me is around confidence, around presenting to their peers, around being able to lead teacher to teacher, and not have to just be led by administrators or people in suits. So this has opened people's eyes and started a conversation in this district that's, I think, very engaging and something that can change a trend of how we do staff development and lead teachers in the future. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it is very exciting for me. You know, this is my 11th year here, and this is, I think, the most exciting and positive thing that I've seen, because it's really changing the way people work. And it's not, like Joe said, it's not me standing there telling them what to do. It's their peers, which is really the most effective. When there's a teacher in the building and another teacher says, hey, I want to try something new, can you help me? And that teacher finds the time. That's the most effective. That's so much better than me showing them or them coming to a course or going to BOCES or anything else.
Even getting it done. You've got the here and now. Can you show me now? Here I am. As opposed to a week from now when you can somebody else can finally get there.
I think teachers are very excited. There's been so much positive feedback. Charles and I were in Newper's classroom observing again, and actually thanking her students, because it's amazing to go in and see them working with these Chromebooks. Is there any plan? I'm sure you're going to say, like, board, open your mouth and help give us the money, but it's been such a positive program having children work on these Chromebooks. Is there any plans in the works to kind of increase that going forward?
Well, I think you know me well enough to know that I like to take things a little slowly and kind of see how they go, and that's why I was really holding back on just saying, okay, here's 500 Chromebooks, everybody figure it out. Mm-hmm. So I think
I think the
October,
way we're doing it is
November,
great.
we'll really get a sense of, are 4 Chromebook cards enough in the middle school, or are they booked all the time? I mean, I think we really need to, before we even talk about more, see how these get used and see how effective it is.
No, I think it's been implemented wonderfully, and I'm very impressed with what I've seen. I think you can attest to, the little bit that we've seen. I've heard teachers are happy with it, so that's it. 30 seconds and I'm done too.
One of the nice things about this model is as technology goes, they're really affordable.
Charles was on the floor with the children. It was adorable to see.
Well, that's what I was
They
gonna say.
loved having him.
It was differentiation.
Big teddy bear.
It was differentiation
So
because each
cute.
kid was at a different level. I sat with about 6 or 7 kids, and each one was at a different level on the same program.
Right.
And actually, a couple of them were in different languages. So that was really interesting to see. But the thing that I see coming is a cultural issue and when you start to share those cards.
Yes, and that's one of our
And
challenges.
who's going to manage it? Who's going to be?
Well, that's the literacy coaches.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not literacy.
Yeah, so that's one of the things, we have to work out a lot of logistics, but the logistics is really not so hard. Getting people to use them is not as just replacing a pen and paper, but in a higher level way.
So yes, your time is up. Thank you.
Good night.
Our next item is the first reading of the policy. It's first reading. We have 2 readings when we adopt new policies. Tom Baker brought this to us. It's a mandated change in policy from the state of New York in how we identify younger students who can participate in JV and varsity athletics. The policy is sort of self-explanatory, but I believe we sent the link to all of the backup information from the state. So in the interest of time, if we could adopt the first reading, we could get into a little more detail
I
next
think we
time.
need,
And this is
I think
essentially.
we need to put it off.
It is up.
No, but we're going to, I think we need
No,
to
this
get it
is
in.
just
That's
first
right. We
reading.
need to
Yeah.
get it in, and this is sort of first reading. Essentially, this is documenting what we are doing already, so it's not really a big change. But it is mandated by the state, so we want to make sure we get our first reading in time for the reorganization. So we're not rushing this.
So
but,
this is
there's
just
gonna
the
be plenty
first
of time.
reading, and we
There's
can
gonna be
just
plenty of
discuss it
time to
further next
deliberate.
week.
So please take a look at it. The community should look at it. And we're just making sure that we're documenting with students who are indeed ready to participate.
You need to start reading somebody.
Oh, sorry, section 135.
Moved away for the reading.
Now it's official.
Okay, so why don't we turn to go,
I was just going to say that.
because I need to vote, sorry.
Me too. So, can I get a motion to adjourn? We're going to meet over Frank G. Lindsay for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.